right, what's up guys? My name is Zach and today I am driving a 1990 Toyota Celica All-Trac Turbo. Up front is a 2.0 liter turbocharged inline 4 and down below is a 5-speed manual transmission. Now I am super excited to be driving this here All-Trac Turbo for a couple of reasons, but mainly this is the all-wheel drive Celica. This was the top dog when it came to the 90 Celica. Now, of course, overseas, they did get a more powerful GT4 Celica, but here in the States, this was the best you could do. And so I'm excited to bring you guys this car today. Before we get on with anything else, I have a website, zackpradel.com, where you can buy stickers like this retro sticker pack I have available for just $10. You can also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form. And you can check my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out here on the channel. But let's get back to that 2.0 liter turbo under the hood, making 200 horsepower and 200 foot-pounds of torque. It is known as the 3S GTE, which was also used in the Turbo MR2. It's a fun car to drive. Is this a very fast car? Not really, but that's not the point of the Celica. You had the Celica's older brother, the Supra, if you wanted to go faster. That got a 6-cylinder turbo. This, especially in this all-track version, was meant for rally racing. And it actually won the World Rally Championship driven by Carlos Sainz, and they made a Carlos Sainz edition of the Celica All-Trac, which is kind of interesting, and I'd love to find one of those to film. Now, this car is tuned slightly. Normally, through first and second gear, it only makes about 6 PSI of boost, and then bumps that up to 9 for the rest of the gears. This car has been altered and tuned to get 11 pounds of boost in all gears. So it does drive slightly differently, but what remains is that there is a fair amount of boost lag down below. This car does not like sitting at low RPM. But then, then it's fun. Once you start actually wringing it out, it is fun. However, something sort of missing from the Celica All-Trac is the fanfare. There's no obnoxious boost noises to make me giggle. The exhaust note isn't anything particularly special. And so that's where the Toyota-ness starts creeping back in, is that it is still a car. This was a competitor to the Eclipse of the time, the Turbo Eclipse. And while that car has more fanfare, it also comes with a lot more issues. So I guess pick your poison. Now it is raining today, obviously, so we'll do second gear once we get up over the hill, sitting at about 4,000 RPM. It moves, it definitely moves. Like I said, paired to a 5-speed manual transmission, and this does have an aftermarket shifter that I'm not particularly in love with. It is pretty stiff, but also I did drive a GTS Celica and I had the same complaint. So just something to note there. Last but not least, of course, this is all-wheel drive because it is the All-Trac. And while it has a center limited slip differential, the front and rear differentials are actually open. I believe the Carlos Sainz edition actually did come with a rear limited slip differential, but unfortunately for this one, it did not. With all of that out of the way, let's talk about the interior, which is pretty standard Celica in here. Well, in front of me, I have 3 main gauge pods. On the left is my coolant temperature and fuel, but also now you'll find my boost pressure. Obviously, the GTS didn't have a turbo, so it didn't have that, but now I get a boost gauge. In the center, I get a speedometer, and on the right, I get my tachometer. The steering wheel does say All-Trac on it, which is a very nice touch and reminds you that you're driving something more unique than just the regular GTS. And off to the left, I have my fog light switches, a vent, and on the door, I have my window locks, and power windows. Further down the door, you'll see this badge that says System 10-inch speakers. This was a almost $1,200 option for the All-Trac Turbo that gives it 10 speakers. It's an okay system. By 90 standards, it's fine, but it's nothing too crazy. However, if you see an All-Trac with that system, just know that the original owner paid almost $1,200 extra just for that system. Moving into the center, I do have my climate controls. They're sort of attached to the gauge cluster. Very interesting, but Toyota was kind of known for doing this. Reminds me a lot of the Supra as well. Very, very driver oriented. If the passenger wants to change the temperature, they can get bent. And then moving to the right of that, I have a digital clock and 2 stacked air vents. And I have an aftermarket radio because every radio from the 90s was pretty garbage. And I have a cigarette lighter and an ashtray. Moving down onto the center console, of course, we come to the shifter. Like I said, I'm not in love with the shifter feel. I think it looks nice. I think it looks presentable. But again, it doesn't have that clickiness that you would find in a Honda of the same era. Then I have the handbrake and my power seat adjustment. So this does have like power lumbar and power seats, which is very unique to have those down in the center. Kind of interesting there. Then I have power mirrors, very, very nice, and a tiny little center console. Now, unfortunately, the Celica All-Trac Turbo does not have a cup holder, so it fails the big friggin' bottle test. The seats are decently comfortable. Like I said, they are power and they are leather, very 90s looking, but nevertheless comfortable. Speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. Ow. All right, so we're in the back of the 1990 Toyota Celica All-Trac Turbo. Headroom, non-existent. Knee room, terrible. This is not the place you want to be when it comes to the All-Trac. You want to be in the driver's seat, but back here, this should just be used for storage. It's not great. The geese are even complaining if you can hear them. All right, around the back of the Turbo All-Trac, pop the trunk here, lift it up. And you do have a fair amount of trunk space, but something I wanted to show off, that this is the original window sticker for this car. You could see MSRP was $21,000, $26,000 after everything. I'll post some pictures here if you want to pause the video to read that. Very, very interesting. And then I do have the owner's manual, the four-wheel drive All-Trac. Super cool stuff in here as well. But the overall trunk space is pretty good. 90s hatchbacks, especially Toyotas. I talked about this with the Mark III Supra that I reviewed. Tons and tons of space back here. Really, really good. Now we got to talk about the looks. I love the Celica red. However, I think a white one does look good too. And you got to love the fact that it does have the pop-up headlights. It also has that functional hood scoop up at the front with some vents as well. Again, all functional and part of the All-Trac package. But let's do a walk around. I overall really like the look of this car. I think it is very 90s, very curved. Obviously late 80s because this debuted in 89 for the 1990 year. But if you want the best looking Celica All-Trac, you have to look at the Carlos Sainz livery from the 90s. It's red, green, and white, and I just think it looks absolutely fantastic. But now let's get to my final thoughts here on the Celica All-Trac. Well, there's some things I love and some things I don't. Let's start off with a negative so we can end on a positive. I wish that there was a little bit more pizzazz when it came to the All-Trac. I'm looking for that extra flair, you know, that's something that sort of sends shivers down my spine. Yes, it's quick and fun to drive, sure, but there's not that, I guess, boost noise or exhaust note to really set me over the edge. I really dislike the shifter feel. Really, really not a fan. But here we go here. I'm not hearing anything. However, let's talk about my favorite parts of this car. It's all-wheel drive. It's an all-wheel drive Celica from the 90s. They're really rare, and I think it's just a really cool piece of automotive technology and automotive history. The other thing is that unlike the DSMs that I talked about earlier, these are reliable. It's Toyota. Toyota has never been super flashy, but Toyotas have always worked. And work it does. This thing works. I guess at the end of the day, my feelings is that this car feels a lot more like an appliance, much like a helmet. When you're headed out to ride your bike, you grab your helmet. It's comfortable, it's good, it does its job perfectly when you do fall. But at the end of the day, you kind of put it back up on the shelf and it waits its turn until next time. Now, there's a beauty in that, and that's perfectly respectable. But I don't feel like this car is out to get me. I don't feel like this car has a strong personality. And then we're back to cruising. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Dave for letting me take out his All-Trac. I'm so happy I was able to get behind the wheel of one of these cars. They are such a cool piece of automotive history, and I'm so glad that I was able to mark that off my list, check it off, and that's all thank you to Dave. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.